How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Reagan Harold. That is former Midland All-American shortstop Carly Fitzer, and this is season 3, episode 10 of NAISB. I'm go ahead and assume this is going to be a pretty longer episode for us. We have got a lot to get into. We have got a phenomenal interview. Carly, you weren't there for it, but we did an in-person interview with Bill Gamala, who is the one of the best umpires in college softball, period. Been in the game 41 years. He's been the UIC for the last 21 years at the NAI National Championship and the now World Series. He's been around so long, he's seen it change from National Championship to World Series. But great story from him, talk about his background. We hit on some hot topic issues like obstruction, strike zone, um, get into the robot umpires and instant replay at higher levels and instant replay at the NAI level. We also on this episode we're gonna have our top 25 reaction as the polls just dropped today as we are recording on Wednesday evening. We'll then give a midweek recap to the games that caught our eye on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then we will do a Gulf Shores and a weekend preview. Obviously, a lot of the big games happening in Gulf Shores, Alabama this weekend. But we'll look at some of the other ones that you should be keeping an eye on this weekend. Carly, let's start with this top 25 reaction. Boy, it's I think they got all 25 right. I don't have a single issue with where anybody was ranked. I think it was perfect. No, not quite. Not quite. Look, it's a very difficult job to be a Raider for your conference. You got a lot going on already as a coach. Um, but in all the polls that I've seen come out, Carly, in now 3 years, there have been three polls that I've just objectively not liked, and have had multiple things that I've picked at and have had it. I want to say issues, but I've had questions about. It was the first poll I saw 2 years ago. The one last year, famously that had undefeated Madonna team outside the top 25, and we reacted accordingly. But this one might take the cake. I think overall, my reaction from it, Carly, is RPI's coming next year, one. And then two, do we really need a coaches poll the first week of March? Yes, we do because we get a lot of interaction on those posts. But I don't think so. I think it's very difficult to try to compare some of these teams that have played 2 games to teams that have played 22 games. But still, even outside of that, to me, there were quite a few issues I had with it. And look, I think there's something that Raiders now need to go back to the drawing board on and kind of reflect on it to an extent. The first one I have a little bit of an issue. There's three things I'm gonna bring up, and I'm gonna progressively get a little more passionate about all three. The first one, the more I think about it, the more I can really give a pass on. Marion and Indiana Wesleyan. So Marion goes from 10 to 11, and Indiana Wesleyan goes from what, 12 to 18. Okay. Obviously, the games Monday and Tuesday in Space Coast, which we're going to talk about in a minute, did not factor into this. I believe Monday was when the Raiders had to have those votes in. So you're looking at a 1-0 Marion and a 1-1 Indiana Wesleyan that you're voting on. I didn't really have a problem with keeping them at like that 11-12 range, maybe drop them 1 or 2 spots. I didn't have a problem with dropping Marion and Indiana Wesleyan outside the top 15. I got a problem when it's not both of them, though. I think there needs to be a little more consistency in that. But the argument is going to be, well, IWU had the loss to IU Southeast. Okay, fair. That's a fair argument. I think mine has more merit to it, and that those two should have been right there together. There shouldn't be that big gap in between them. But fine, if there was enough there between the coaches to agree on that, that's okay. These next two, though, Carly, it's tough for me. Well, I'll stop there. Your thoughts, kind of, that they're on Marion and IWU.
No, I'm with you 100%. I don't know. It's
Yeah, it's not one we're like jumping up and down about, but these next two, I'm
Yeah,
playing some hopscotch about.
yeah.
I'm
The
not.
next year where we get a little bit fired up.
Okay. Eastern Oregon.
Yeah.
They have more top five wins and at least as many top 10 wins and the same amount of losses against non-top 25 teams. It's 10 of the 13 teams ranked ahead of them. And if you cut off that no L's, I believe it's 11 of 13. I just don't get the rationale behind it. Raiders, most of you got my phone number. If you don't, you definitely know the social medias. I'd love a chat for an explanation on how Eastern Oregon is ranked number 14. Let's look at it from a fundamental standpoint. They split with Benue Mesa. Okay, that deserves a drop. Sure, from 10. I get it. If that was it, they were 1-1. Okay, you got me. But then they go to Oregon Tech, historically very hard place to win at. Phenomenal program. Two passionate two fan bases, very passionate, but they split. Okay. Now, obviously, we get why Eastern Oregon's two. I have no problem. I really have no problem with 1 through 5. I think 1 through 5 is good. Would I maybe pad Northwestern a little higher? Yeah, but looking at hindsight, that's we'll get into the recap in a minute. I don't get how this team's not a top 10 team. 2 wins against the number 2 team in the country. Nobody else has that.
Yep.
Nobody else has that. Okay. Oklahoma City's got a win against Oregon Tech. Campbellsville's got 1 win against Southern Oregon. There's a lot of teams in that top 10 that don't have those kind of wins. We just mentioned it. We just mentioned it. And I'm like, what's the rationale? You punish them for a split against Benue Mesa, but then you don't reward them for a split on the road against Oregon Tech. That doesn't work for me. I'd like a little more rationale, but even still, I'm sure you can talk me into it somehow, some way. At 14, no. I mean, I think that's ridiculous. I really find it ridiculous. They're 14th. Could you talk me into 11 or 12? Maybe. And look, I'm not going to haggle over a couple of spots, really. I think they, at worst, should have been 9. At best, could have been 5, maybe
Yeah.
6. Um, Carly, we've already talked about this, so I know your thoughts, but kind of similar. I mean, what's the lowest you would have personally ranked Eastern Oregon?
I'd probably draw the line at 10. I mean,
So they
I
got to be
just
top
don't
10
think
for
the
you.
loss, yeah, I don't think the loss to Benny Mesa is justifiable for putting them at 14. I mean, that's your
Yeah.
first two
Look,
games.
I get it if they were 25th and you move them up 9 spots to 14, then okay, yeah, but you drop
Right.
them
You moved
4?
them down.
And look, nobody's got the resume to have jumped them.
Yeah, no.
I don't get it. I just don't get it. Here's the one where I'm really lost at, and I don't like this. I really didn't like this. And it's just me being honest and hoping I've gotten respect with everybody at this point. I really really did not like this. And I meant to look up a third team to compare this to, and I because I know that the team C has 2 top 10 wins, which is more than one of the teams we're about to talk about. But let's get into it. Team A versus Team B. We got a good old fashioned blind resume, Carly. Team A, and everybody listen up. Team A is 9-3. Their losses are to, in this poll, who the coaches voted on, number 4, number 10, number 21. One of their wins is against number 10, so they split against number 10, Madonna. Okay. Team B, 5-3. So 4 less games, 4 less wins. Their losses to a receiving votes team, who overall is number 31 in the coaches poll. They have a win with that same team, so a split there. That team's Embry Riddle, and then their other 2 losses are to an unranked team. Team A is St. Xavier, just outside the top 25. Team B is College of Idaho. I got a lot of respect for both programs. I've got a ton of respect for College of Idaho. I got y'all know I got a ton of respect for the Cascade. The Cascade's got 3 top 10 teams right now. They've also got 3 top 25 teams in NAI softball. Period. Now I'm not saying that's going to hold throughout the year. That's still the best conference. Carroll, British Columbia, College of Idaho could absolutely, in my opinion, be top 25 teams. But St. Xavier, Evangel, right now those are top 25 teams. And I
Yep.
don't love I don't love Middle Georgia and Coastal Georgia falling out, but I get it. I'm gonna bite my tongue on anything else because I don't need to harp on anything else. I am.
Go any longer,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a heart attack.
Yeah, I mean, I try this. I've been. It is literally what I've been thinking about all day. And at the end of the day, we can say these polls don't matter. We can say this or that. They damn sure do.
Yep.
They do matter. This first poll is important because some teams are looking at like, okay, if we just run the course, we're a 1 seed. Now you look at Eastern Oregon at number 14 after having what I would say a successful weekend against number 2 and getting punished for it. They still got an uphill battle with games against College of Idaho or series against College of Idaho, Southern Oregon, Carroll, British Columbia coming up. I know they got Providence this weekend. Boy, I wouldn't want to face Eastern Oregon this weekend. Boy, I sure wouldn't. I didn't love Our Lady of the Lake dropping to 9 either. I don't really have a ton of points on that. I look at I I know that the Ottawa loss is tough, but I look at some of the teams ahead of, and I'm like, well, what are we doing? I don't know. I get it. It's early. It's tough. It's a tough job. It's tough to compare teams when you look at, like I said earlier, teams that played 20 plus versus teams that have played single digits. But those are the ones where I'm like, hey, you argue with umpires, be consistent. We need to be consistent here. Sorry, RPI is coming next year. We'll leave it at that. I'll tell you another one that I didn't have a ton of an issue with, but I'm asking Raiders to look at, or be accountable and look at what they had in their ratings. Carly, I have to. I know you. We text about it. You feel a different way. I had to look at it a little bit more. Southeastern being ranked 16th in the coaches poll, I do not have a problem with. I'll preference it with that. I should have had them in my top 15 power rankings because I don't think that there's 15 teams better than them. Quite
Yeah.
frankly, as we transition now into our midweek recap, certainly we wait 24 hours. That sweep of Grandview is something we bring into play. But let's talk about it, Carly. This Southeastern Fire Monday. They sweep Grandview, a very impressive sweep. I've been getting a lot more phone calls, a lot more questions about that lefty, Eden Playa. Carly, when do we start telling them about her? This time last year. Tried telling you. Tried telling you. She has
Yeah.
arrived. She is the ace. She is, in
She
my
just
opinion, the best pitcher in the Sun Conference. One of the
yeah.
best pitchers in the NAI. She's a sophomore against Grandview in game one. She goes 7 innings, 4 strikeouts, 1 walk, 1 earned a run. And I'll tell you another thing we need to talk about. That's a top 5 infield. That's a top 5 infield. Let's break it down. Let's look at just what their middle infield did in game one. Chapel Cunningham, 2 for 3, 2 RBIs. Cassidy Moore, the transfer from Mercer out of Macon, Georgia. I think she wants to get back up to Georgia and playing in late May. I think her and a lot of these Southeastern Fire player who know a thing or two about that want to. But Cassidy Moore goes 2 for 3, a pair of runs scored. Let's look at it a little bit more with that infield. Defensively, it's unquestioned. It's not a question at all. With you look at the left side, and we talked about this when we previewed the Sun Conference. Lauren Seconder, Chapel Cunningham, communication and just skill set wise, it's one of the best there is. You look on the right side, we say they brought in Cassidy Moore, who's solid at second base, and Leah Gonzalez, very good first baseman, but they're getting it done with the bats too. Carly Chapel Cunningham is batting 485. She's 18 for 18 stealing bases. I mean, look, Fire burned the base paths. We know that it's continued
Yeah.
into this year. They're now 41 and 42 as a team. They've got more power than what we are used to, I would say, from the Southeastern team. I'd say from the last couple of years, they had a little more pop in that World Series team. Look at Leah Gonzalez providing that with 4 home runs and 14 RBIs. Overall, as a team, Carly, they're fielding above 97%, and Eden and Maria Zelenka are both have sub 2 ERAs. Speaking of Zelenka and their 3-2 game 2 win, she goes 6 1/3, 2 strikeouts, 0 walks. Eden would come in and get the last 2 outs in the save. Gonzalez, who we just talked about, had 2 big knocks, a solo shot, a RBI double, and they decided to walk her after that. Good decision. And then you add in an outfield piece. Riley McKinney has an RBI and a double. How's she doing on the year? How about 400 with 4 more home runs and 14 RBIs? Carly, it's a phenomenal 1 through 5. It's an elite defense. They've got a really good catcher in Nicole Wasserstrom as well. They've got 2 good young pitchers, a couple more as well. This is Look, I've already said this is the best Sun Conference we've seen since 2022, and it's led by. We thought it would be led by St. Thomas, who we'll talk about their Space Coast experience as well. I still believe in them, and obviously the Raiders do too. They're still number 19 in the polls now. Again, that Marion and IWU game not counting, but they did have that loss against Bethel, and it did not hurt them, which consistency. We're moved on.
Right.
But we came into this year, St. Thomas, the overwhelming favorite to win the Sun Conference, and Southeastern has reminded everybody not so fast. Only one loss to the year when they took 2 or 3 from Thomas. Carly, I'll see them on March 11th over at Space Coast. They're taking on your alma mater, Midland.
That they are. Yeah.
Yeah, they know a thing or two about beating Warriors. Trust me on that. But
I guess.
Carly, the Bellevue Bruins have had a nice showing. They played in a thriller, but Madonna got the best of them out in Arizona.
Yeah, we were texting back and forth about Bellevue kind of surprised us a little bit this year. But they just took a loss to Madonna 7-6. They had a big 5-run inning in the second to take the lead 5-3. Took a 6-4 lead in the bottom of the sixth. And then Madonna's Ashley Rosewitz, she would tie it in the seventh with a 2-run shot to left field. Not the only home run from her we'll be talking about today. And then Mackenzie Ming would bring in the go-ahead run. Rosewitz 2 for 4 with a double, a home run, a couple RBIs. Mackenzie Ming with a run and a couple RBIs. Jessica Dunkel 2 for 4. And then Jane Anderson getting it done in the circle, 5 2/3. Just 4 hits, 1 earned run, and 3 strikeouts.
Yeah, it was very impressive. Now top 25 win for Madonna. Carly, I will say one thing that the Raiders did get absolutely right. Bellevue is 100% a top 25 team, as well as Campbellsville, and we'll have a nice little tease for you here. We've been doing a little bit of time traveling today, so we are recording right after we have our interview, or we had our interview with Coach Shannon Wathen from Campbellsville. Phenomenal interview. I think it ended up being about 35-40 minutes long with Coach. Really good stuff. That'll be out on Monday. As we already have the interview with Bill Gomoluch. We knew we had a lot to talk about this episode. We didn't want to send y'all with a 2.5 hour one heading into the weekend. But yeah, great interview with her. She'll be on next week's episode. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube if you're not, and to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Get in the comments. Sound off in the comments on what you think about the top 25, some of the games in Gulf Shores this weekend that we're about to talk about, and some of the results in Space Coast, many other things. And of course, subscribe, share it, grow the game, grow the podcast. But in Space Coast, Carly, I got to see some great games earlier this week. Started off with Indiana Wesleyan on Monday beating St. Thomas 2-0. Got to see Jordan Ball in the gray and red for the first time, and she did not disappoint. Gets a really good lineup down there at St. Thomas. Ball went 7 innings, a 5-hit, 2 strikeout, no walk, no runs. Of course, they're only two strikeouts, well below what we normally see for her. St. Thomas was making contact, but boy, I was really impressed with the defensive effort, especially at shortstop and left field from the Wildcats. Carly, they made some really big plays that limited the Bobcats to 5 hits despite Ball only getting two strikeouts. She was able to work around some stuff as well. You know, she's the same. She is what we've seen the last couple of
First
years.
of all, we know, yeah.
Yeah, she looked phenomenal. Their question is going to be the pitching after her, but defensively and in the lineup, that's not something they're going to have to worry about this year. In that St. Thomas game, in the lineup, Sadie Harding led the way, going 2 for 3, including an inside the park home run. One that just took a funny hop off the turf and rolled into deep left field, kind of a bigger ballpark they played in there at Space Coast, and she turned on the Jets. But a nice win there for Indiana Wesleyan.
Yeah. And moving on to our friends over in Missouri, Mobap swept Friends in a little doubleheader. Game one, a little bit closer, 3-2. Brooklyn Fisher, off to a phenomenal start this year. She's 2 for 4 with a double and 2 RBIs, getting it done in the circle as well. Gave up 10 hits, but only allowed 2 earned runs, struck out 7. And then Alexi Sanchez contributed that other RBI, 2 for 4 with a run scored as well. Then game two, Mobap kind of busted it open 9-0. Game was scoreless through 4 before Mobap would score 2, 3, and 4 in the 5th through the 7th, and then they'd finish with 13 hits compared to Friends 2. Thank you to Taylor Whitehead. Complete game, 2 hits, 0 walks, 6 strikeouts. Michaela Johnson, big game for her, 4 RBIs, 2 doubles, 3 for 5 on the day. JCD's 4 for 4 with a double and an RBI. And then Brooklyn Fisher again, 2 for 4 with a double. And Mobap gets out of a doubleheader with Friends unscathed.
Moving on to Tuesday in the midweek recap, Marion took on St. Thomas. Got to watch that game. Carly, you predicted Olivia Stunk to be the pitcher of the year out of the Crossroads. I'm almost sick with my pick with Jordan Ball, but boy, she was what she usually is. Was able to mix pitches well, mix speeds as well as anybody in the NAIA. Changeup is lethal. She goes 5 innings, gave up 2 earned, 3 strikeouts in the lineup for Marion. They jumped on St. Thomas early, getting up to a 4-0 lead. Abby Monterey, the RBI machine, goes 2 for 4 with an RBI and a double. Lily went 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a double. Katie Lackman and Lauren Meyer kept St. Thomas scoreless in the 6th and the 7th. Sunk will only go in 5 innings, but an impressive top 20 win for the Marion Knights.
Yeah. Talk about another big top 20 win. Bellevue defeated Northwestern 8-2 down in
Top
Arizona.
5 win now.
Top 5 win now, yeah. Top 4. Anyways, it was 2-2 after the first. Bellevue took the lead in the 4th. Big top of the 7th for them. They score 4. Caitlin Fisher, 3 for 4 with a run, an RBI, and 2 doubles. Alexis Seidel, 2 for 4, 2 runs, 3 RBIs, and a home run. And then Katie Cunningham, complete game, 7 hits, 2 earned run, and 3 strikeouts.
Yeah, one of the biggest wins of the season for any program. Certainly
Yeah.
now with them being in the top 25, they've established themselves as a team that could see their way shooting up. And we'll talk more about Bellevue later in the episode. We just talked with Coach Watson a little bit about this doubleheader, but Faulkner, on a very windy day there in Alabama, they were able to get to over now 23rd ranked Campbellsville Lady Tigers. Game one was a pitcher's duel. Faulkner would take it 3-2. Campbellsville took a 2-0 lead early, and then it would be Addison Jarman with an RBI double in the bottom of the 3rd as part of her 3-for-4 day to get them on the board. And Gracie Pittman would triple in the 5th to tie it, and Madeline Becker would score a pinch runner to take the lead. And that would be all that Reese Patterson needed as she went the distance, allowing 2 runs and striking out 3. So again, a good, as we talked about with Jordan Ball and the Wildcats from Indiana Wesleyan. Same thing for the Faulkner, as the defense is able to record the vast majority of the outs there. In game two, it was anything but a pitcher's duel. It was 16-12. Campbellsville once again would jump out in front, taking a 6-2 lead before Faulkner would score a touchdown in the second. And then teams would trade 4 spots in the third, and then ultimately it would be Lena Atkins to stop any more runs from scoring as she came out of the bullpen and pitched 4 innings of shutout ball. Obviously, quite a few names to list for Faulkner in that win, but the three that really stood out, Addison Jarman, again, huge day for her, putting her name in the hat early for a Player of the Week nomination. Addison Jarman 4 for 3, 5 RBIs, a home run, and a double, only a triple short of the cycle. Gracie Pittman, 3 for 5. She leaves a yard twice and tallies 4 ribeye steaks. And Chloe Davidson goes 3 for 3, and she touches home 4 times. Carly, very impressive for Faulkner as we look at Middle Georgia State falling outside the top 25 in the Southern states. Quite possibly could have Faulkner start sneaking up. No, we have picked them as a dark horse out of the Southern states, but a team that has certainly had one of the biggest upsets of the weekend, and perhaps could
Yeah.
be a dark horse in my conference down here in Florida. Ave Maria 4, Marion 0.
Yeah, they blanked Marion. It was scoreless through three, and then Ave Maria would score in 3 consecutive innings. Sienna Franklin was 1 for 2 with 2 RBIs, and then RBIs from Carson Moore and Annabella Phillips. And Gina Gallegos would get the complete game, giving up just 5 hits, 0 earned runs, and striking out three.
Yeah, I was really worried about my Sun Conference after Marion swept uh, Kaiser and St. Thomas, and then IWU got St. Thomas as well. I was like, oh gosh, and then it was Ave Maria. So shout
Definitely.
out to Coach Fitz down there. They're killing it. Go Gyrenes. And also congratulations to their men's uh, basketball team just won the Sun Conference championship. Our men's basketball is rock and roll in the Sun Conference. We got 3 teams that are 100% in the or 99.9% into the tournament. Maybe get Southeastern snuck in there as well. Weber, not so much. We didn't make the conference tournament. Anyways, moving on to Wednesday for our midweek recap. Boy, what a doubleheader going down in Mobile, Alabama,
Yeah.
between Georgia Gwinnett and the Mobile Rams. Mobile would take game one of this top 25 clash 2-1. 3 2-out singles early on, capped off by a Maya Simmons RBI single to score. Lily Lanham would give Mobile the lead. Freshman Gracie Mitchell would double, steal third, and then score on a throwing error to make it 2-0. There will be a triple and a run scored for the Grizzlies to make it 2-1, but Avery Harrell goes the distance, 129 pitches, 7 strikeouts, 3 hits, 2 walks. She did hit 3 batters, but able to work out of it and get the 2-1 win. And Carly, game two. Uh, Annalise Jarvis, look, they win 2-0. Annalise 14 strikeout, perfect game. I believe it was the sixth perfect game of her career. Yeah, I mean,
Not much
Carly,
to say.
like
She's in
I
our top
don't,
three pitchers for a reason.
yeah, but I mean, at this point, she ain't 2 or 3, bro.
No, you're right.
Like, there's another. She's on another level right now. Like we thought she couldn't. Like there that every time we think like there's the level, like that's as high up as she could probably get. Boom, does that and just did it to two really like Reinhardt's a legit lineup.
Yep.
Mobile's a very good lineup, and yeah, I mean it's sad this is the last year we'll get to watch her pitch, but you know just enjoy it. I mean
We'll
just
sure
enjoy it.
enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just enjoy it. It's like last year it was when realized like, "Dang, it's the last time Cassie Valdez is going to lace him up. I got a little feeling in my chest. I was like, gosh, dang it, it sucks. After they won it, and I mean, it happens to a lot of players like that. Gosh, I'm starting to think about it a little bit. Casey Schmidt's hanging it up after this year. Got
Yep.
Carly Oliver, Bailey Turnbow, Amber Atkins at Cumberland's. A lot of great players. I mean, we can spend the rest of the episode doing this. Let's not. Let's get to some good stuff. Carly, how about Jamestown?
Yeah, my former GPAC foe, Jamestown Jimmies. They upset Madonna 7-6. Madonna would tie it up in the sixth inning. They scored four, and then Jimmy's would score one in the bottom of the sixth to secure the win. Madonna D did give up three earned runs, but same to say for Jamestown, so they cancel out. Kayla Quintanilla, 2 for 3 with 2 runs and RBI and two doubles for her. Natalie Draper was 2 for 4 with an RBI. And then Maddie Haregrove will get the win. She goes 2 innings, giving up just 3 hits and 0 earned runs in the Jimmy's win.
Yeah, Carly, and I know that this game was underway when we started talking with Coach Watson, but it has gone final. I'm glad I pulled it up. That's not the only top 10 win for Jamestown. They have beaten Northwestern as that has just gone final 8-4. Pulling it up really quick. Caitlin McCartney, 3 for 4, 6 RBIs, two doubles for her. Trinity Gregg, their center fielder, 2 for 4, pair of runs scored. Natalie Draper, 2 for 3, pair of runs scored. Lauren Riggle and Kayla Quintanilla would pick up RBIs as well. In the circle, it was Abby Blair getting the win, 5 innings, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 1 strikeout, and then Laura Ransom, 2 innings, no runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. Holy cow, Jamestown.
The Jimmy's are hot. I think they're on like a 7 game win streak.
No, I'm looking at it right now. I mean, the wins against St. Francis, impressive. Concordia, impressive. They run roll Arizona Christian and La Sierra. I mean, they are killing it. I mean, just absolutely killing it. They struggle a little bit in the bubble, losing to Valley City State and Dickinson State, which the North Star, you start looking at the North Star, may be a little bit more of a player than we thought
Yeah.
possible. Obviously, coming into the year. Um, Looking at who else. I mean, they've got another game against Northwestern, another game against St. Francis coming up before they go. And remember, this. They're in the North Star now. No, like you said, a former GPAC team, but they're in the North Star now. And yeah, I mean, Jimmy's are hot. Wow, 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 wow. Congratulations to them, Carly. Do you want can can you talk about this next one? I'm actually going to put out a tweet real quick about that.
Yeah. Another big win for Madonna. They take down number 4 Northwestern 7-1 today. Northwestern slightly out hit Madonna 10-9, but the Crusaders were the ones that were able to capitalize on their base runners. Ashley Rosewitz, again, I mentioned her earlier, having a phenomenal game. She went 2 for 2 with a run and 3 RBIs and another home run. Reagan Finkbeiner was 2 for 4 with a double and an RBI. Gauthier, 2 for 3 with 2 runs, an RBI, and a triple. And then Jane Anderson, again, getting it done in the circle. 5 1/3, giving up 8 hits, 1 earned run, striking out 4. And going a little off of what I saw on Twitter today, you like that?
You like that?
You like that?
Shout out, I got Ryan, one of the best SIDs in the game. Also want to mention Elisa Elisa Rivas for Bethany. She went 17 for 26 last week, 6 home runs, 2 doubles. It was a tough decision for us for player of the week last week. We ultimately had to go with Tyree for how not just what she did in the hitting wise, but how she impacted that game overall. Or not just that game, that entire series against Oregon Tech, but credit to Rivas, phenomenal stuff. But okay, we're going to now kick it over to interview with Bill Gamala, and then after that we'll have our weekend preview. But yeah, without further ado, Carly, you got anything else for recap wise?
No.
All right, we'll kick it over now to one of the best umpires in the game, Bill Gamala. How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? We now welcome on a very, very special guest. For the first time, we've got an umpire on the show. It is Bill Gomoluch. Mr. Bill, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. You have got a storied career. As an interview, I've been really excited about. Something we want to go ahead and announce. Obviously with NAISB and the podcast, a big thing we've done to sustain it in the future is putting on the NAISB Invitational last week in Oklahoma. We're moving on to 2026 now, and we're very happy to say you're going to be a part of that next year as our UIC.
Yep, I'm very pleased to take the trip to Oklahoma and see great softball and put good umpires on games.
We've had some good softball here at the Space Coast Invitational, you and Victor Canales helping put that on. But just taking a step back, Bill, looking at your career, you've had, I don't want to say how long, I mean, you've been in this game for a while. So talk to us about how long you've been an umpire and how you got your start.
Man, I've been in the game for 40 plus years, pushing 50, I believe. I was 19 in college in Michigan, and somehow made a connection with a local guy. He said, hey, come do some umpiring. Did a few high school games, and next thing you know, he says, hey, I have a junior college game at St. Clair County Community College. Would you like to do it? I said, sure. My first game ever was 50 minutes long, 1-0, and I was hooked. It was just absolutely hooked. Yeah. And then I relocated my job, started doing NAI D3, progressed to D2, did several state championships, Michigan High School Athletic State Championships, and one of the coordinators of that was also a coordinator of the time of the Mid-American Conference and asked me if I'd be interested in working in the MAC. I did. Back then, most colleges hired their own umpires. We didn't have assigners way back. And got seen by Notre Dame when they were playing at Toledo. Coach ran after me after the game, said, hey, how would you like to come to Notre Dame next year? I said, I'd love to. Got a contract, 3 contracts on my birthday, actually, in April that year. For 3 games, 3 dates next year at Notre Dame. And then they eventually went to the Big East. I got grandfathered into the Big East and just kind of steamrolled from there. Went to a leadoff classic. The Big Ten coordinator at the time, Lisa Harvey, see me. He asked me if I wanted to join the Big Ten roster. Absolutely. Worked in the SEC. Pretty much worked in all the conferences except conferences out west. Went to a leadoff classic. Was great. Eventually umpired, started umpiring the then NAI National Championship. Did that for about 3 years. It was in Decatur. And then eventually was asked to become the UIC and I've been doing that for 20 years now as the UIC, and now the NAI World Series. In 2014, I was honorably selected to work the NCAA Division I College World Series.
Very cool.
And that was quite an adventure, and very, very honored to be selected to do that. There's only a number of umpires get to umpire that, and it's kind of cool to say that I worked the first game of the year, and then I worked the last game of the championship series at third base. So I got to work the first game of the year and the last game of the year, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Working at every level. You mentioned 19 years old. You're starting off at JUCO, 19, college softball. Was there ever a doubt that you wanted to work at any other sport? Have you worked in anything besides softball?
I do multiple high school sports. I coached 722 basketball games, including 5 years at Owens Community College, where I was the head women's coach. And then when I gave that up because my college softball thing took off, I did a year of college basketball, but it wasn't my favorite thing to do, traveling in the winter, where they wanted to send you for 250 miles or wherever they were sending me. It's like, what, this just isn't for me. So I'm so back, officiating high school football, volleyball, basketball, and softball. So happy to do that.
We talked yesterday about what makes a good umpire. I wanted to hit on some of those aspects. Obviously, a big one, strike zone and having strike zone consistency. Can you talk about how you were able to develop your strike zone and your advice to young umpires when it comes to balls and strikes?
Well, at my camps, I try to do this, so I think I had a rough game yesterday, is accuracy. I think it's not about being consistent. You hear coaches yell at you, hey, be consistent. It's more about being accurate, right? I mean, that's, being consistent is great, but if you're consistently off the plate, that's not good, right? So my thing is being accurate. And when I tell catchers, I tell coaches when I talk to them, I'm calling where the ball crosses the plate in accordance to the batter's top of knees to bottom of sternum, right? Not to where the catcher catches it. I've been thrown under the bus by some coaches at the highest level by sending videos to coordinators where the catcher has caught the ball, when I can show the video where it crossed the plate, right, and then the ball took off. And we have some great pitchers at all levels, including NAIA. I always say that these top 10 teams at the World Series can compete and beat many, many mid-major Division I schools.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at someone like last year, Cassie Valdez, and her throwing 63, 64, nasty rise ball. I mean, yeah, that's going to be a little bit difficult sometimes for umpires when you talk about where it crosses the plate versus where the catcher receives the ball. Another aspect you talked about is important for umpires, especially young umpires early on in their career, is game management. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I think the biggest part is to be approachable, right?
Sure.
I mean, everybody has a different tolerable level, but bottom line is, and I tell this to my umpires at camps and new umpires, this is coaches' lives. They get paid,
right,
and some handsomely to umpire, or coach at whatever level they're coaching at, right? Especially collegiately. And for us, even though this is a full-time job for me and you, so to speak, as we're tied into softball, a lot of these people have real jobs. So this is kind of a hobby for them, so to speak, but a very serious hobby. So it's being approachable, understanding that, hey, sometimes they're just out there to vent. Can you talk a coach off a ledge, right? Sometimes I've had coaches come out and just, hey, I'm going to chew you, but I'm not really chewing you. I'm sticking up for my team, right? They just want to vent because maybe their team's not playing well, right? Maybe their best hitter's 0 for 3, and then on defense she makes an error or whatever. Coach comes out because there was a call that he knew you got right, or she knew you got right, and then they're just saying, listen, I'm going to be a little flamboyant here, right? But I'm not mad at you. I'm sticking up for my team because we're just not playing well. And then there's other times that coaches really are mad because you didn't get the right angle or you didn't get the right position. It's very understandable. But I tell young umpires, that's the first thing, is you have to try to develop game management if at all possible. Because the game isn't about you or I or the coaches. It's about the student athletes. That's what the game is about.
Can you give if you don't want to, I get it, but could you give an example maybe of a college softball coach like telling you like, hey, I'm about to stick up, and then they get after you a little bit like that?
Yeah, I had that once or twice. Usually the steal at second base. That was before we had replay and challenges and getting together and get the call right. It was a couple times at second base. Steal attempt, owner save. Here comes the coach.
Sure.
Yeah, I know you got it right, but listen, let's make this look good. So, chew me a little bit, and I just turn and walk away, and they turn and walk away, and it's over with.
You mentioned something there I wanted to make sure we talked about. It's not something we're seeing a lot at the NAIA level. Obviously, we had it at the World Series last year, but it's becoming bigger and bigger in MLB. There's certainly new aspects of it, but video review. Overall, just as an umpire, what are your thoughts on video review, and how can it improve moving forward?
I think the biggest thing it does, especially since it's at the Division I level, obviously we use it at the World Series, it does quell the coach-umpire relationship, knowing that they have challenges and that we can challenge ourselves when we kick calls after the 6th inning or in certain situations any time in the game, malicious contact, stuff like that. It does quell the umpire coach relationship because they know they can challenge and potentially get the call overturned or upheld, right? So,
well, something that goes to replay a lot and has been a very hot topic over the last couple of years in the rule book. You probably know where I'm going with this, the big O word, obstruction.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. First off, can you just define it for us, like what it actually is, and then what's the issue? Because there's obviously something going on between the rule book, the umpires, and coaches slash players with it. So talk to us a little bit about obstruction.
So the rule book is pretty much cut and dried that no defensive player can block the leading edge to a base. And when I run my camps, the leading edge to first base is between home and first. The leading edge from first to second is the front of the base facing second base from first base, and the front of second base facing first base, and then so forth and so on. And then at home, it's the side piece of the plate. It's not the front of the plate. The front leading edge is the side piece, the short side piece of the base, I think 8 inches. And cannot block or impede any runner by blocking the front leading edge to those bases.
So it sounds very cut and dry in the rule book.
It does, but then you have the trajectory of a throw, right?
Right.
And there's the leeway of a trajectory of a throw is off. You can't expect the defense not to go after the throw, right? As long as they originally were not blocking the front leading edge, they can go get the ball, and there may be contact. And in that case, predominantly it's not obstruction because they have the right for that ball too. But once a player or a catcher has possession of the ball, they can do whatever they need to do to block the plate or base.
Right. So do you think there's anything that needs to be cleaned up with the rule, or does it just need to continue to be in the game and we will develop with it?
They've changed the obstruction verbiage and terminology and rule several times in the last 10 years, which until we can all get on the same page, it's never going to be perfect, and it still may never be perfect because it still comes down to some judgment. Was she blocking the leading edge? Was she not blocking the leading edge? Did the director throw take her, or was she blocking the right? Your angle is going to be different than an umpire's angle. A coach in the dugout's angle is going to be different than the coach in the third base or first base box, right? And then the umpire's positioning is going to be different. So you're going to always have some sort of controversy on what it is and what it isn't.
So the obstruction, and we'll move on. What do you tell your umpires as far as getting in position for those classic play at the plate, trying to find where that catcher, if she is blocking that leading edge or not? What do you tell umpires at your camps on that?
To make sure the catcher or a defensive player at any one of the bases is not predominantly in the path of the front leading edge of the base or plate. That's basically what you tell them. And that's your first thing. And if she is, then obviously there's potential to have obstruction, right? Right. But if she's there and then she moves and then moves for a ejectory throw, then you wouldn't have obstruction. So there's always going to be controversies because it still comes down to judgment. Whether it's good judgment or bad judgment, it's still going to come down to judgment, right?
I hear that.
I think the verbiage, the NCAA is because that's the rule book that we all use, NCAA rule book, is the continuous training. It's a continuous, videos put out for umpires. I just put one on a couple weeks ago through our NAIA national office about obstruction. Okay. And so, I sent another video last night about malicious contact. So there's always going to be something, right?
Yeah, we just saw even one last weekend in the Eastern Oregon Tech game where there could have been malicious contact called. It wasn't, but there's definitely a play there involved where that was something. So interesting point there. You mentioned judgment, it being a judgment call, just moving off of obstruction. You got to use some judgment as the UIC for the NAIA World Series. Obviously, those are the 17 or 18 most high-stake games of the season, so you want to have your best umpires out there. Kind of talk to us about that selection process for you and coordinating with assigners to get the best, because over the last couple of years, at least in my opinion, the last couple of years, the World Series umpires have lived up to expectation.
Yeah, I think before it was, the process has changed numerous times. First of all, first time around for many years, it was just by coordinators recommending. Right. And then it came down to umpires applying and then me doing my research, right? Sure. Both those had great points and both those had some bad points, right? And so since I do know a lot of umpires across the country, I know a lot of coordinators, I do pick other umpires' brains on their thoughts of umpires coming up and deserving this opportunity. I do talk to other coordinators and occasionally coaches. I do know a lot of coaches, a lot of great coaches in the NAIA, and what their thought is on a certain umpire or that certain umpire. Now, I'm not going to go out and elaborate and tell you who they are, but I do I do pick brains of coaches and their thoughts of an umpire, and that helps with my selection process for sure. The other part is you can't. Last year was the first. We had 7 umpires last year because one of them was in a replay booth. I'm pretty sure it's going back to 6 with a monitor this year, but we're not 100% on that. So I do have 6 umpires selected. And ironically, last year I had 7 umpires from 7 different states. So it's, I'm from Michigan, so yeah, you always say you always have a Michigan umpire, but I do know the Michigan umpires quite well and have trust in the ones I would send, I send there. But same token is I've got to have some people from the West. I got to have some people from the Midwest, some potentially from the South. East Coast doesn't matter because we have no NAIA schools up east. So, and Texas, right, for sure. So I try to rotate it. The process is they can't go more than 2 years in a row now without sitting for a year or two. I always try to bring 1 or 2 back, 3 sometimes, so they have the feel of what it is, so they can, talk to the umpires coming in. Not that the umpires coming in are not good umpires. It's just a different level, right?
Absolutely.
And I try to tell these umpires in our meetings, especially the umpires that work opening rounds, is it's a different level. The intensity is a different level, and you have to focus on every pitch and every play, and something we call pre-pitching. And what I mean by that is if umpire 1 chases as umpire 3, you have to read what umpire 1 does, so we get potential bases covered, right? Worst you can do is have one umpire chase and someone not read, and all of a sudden we have second base uncovered. That's not a good thing. So experience is the other part of the factor of how much experience do they have as a 3 umpire system. Excuse me. Some umpires who only umpire in a 2 umpire system, and this happened several years back where I did take coordinators' advice. Didn't go so well because I felt like it was a training camp at the World Series, and that's not what this is all about. And so I helped, I think I was a part of helping change the selection process with the NAIA office, and I got great bosses there. I've had great bosses there, so it's, they listen to what I have to say, and they put their feedback in, and then we can come to a mutual agreement on how we're going to select umpires. And like you said, the last couple of years, it's overall been pretty good. Has there been a disappointment too? Yeah, there's always going to have, be a disappointment, right? But all in all, I'm very pleased and very proud of, the job they've done.
Good, and like I said, as you continue to develop, you say you've been at this 41 years, starting when you're 19. You're one of the most in shape, 60?
65.
60, dude,
I will be.
You're looking good. You're looking good. You're one of the most in shape 65-year-olds. Like you got a full head of steam. You're wanting to keep rolling with this and keep developing.
Don't tell my wife that.
I hear you. But so obviously you've seen over your career, you've seen the rule book change. You've seen it develop in certain ways over the year. As it stands now, would you say, hey, this is the best it's been, or would you say maybe there's 1 or 2 things that you would like to see tweaked, and what could those be if there are?
Yeah, like a couple things I'd like to see tweaked, actually, and I failed to put in for the rule change, but I will going forward. The one that coaches are going to love me this for is I don't understand why on a second trip to the mound, when we know a pitcher has come in a game, they have to tell the umpire that the pitcher's coming out prior to crossing the line. Sure. Everybody knows that pitcher's got to come out, but we have to eject the coach, clerically, so to speak. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
Why do they have to tell us first? We know they're coming out. Yeah. Right. That's one. The other one is we have 90 seconds between innings, right? But they have a pitching change. Well, pitching change takes sometimes 3 or 4 minutes. And why aren't we putting that on the clock as well? Once the coach gives you a change, right, and the pitcher crosses the line, why aren't we clicking to 90 seconds and they have 90 seconds just like we do between half innings, right? That would speed up the game a little bit.
Could that be just trying to get them a few extra pitches thrown or anything like that?
No, they only get 5 anyway, but it's all about the catcher going out, him coming out, coach is out there. We wait for the new pitcher to come in the game,
right?
And then the coach is talking to that pitcher, and the pitching coach might be out there, and then they throw their pitches, and they all got to get together again, right? It's just sometimes it's just
they can slow the game down.
Yeah, and it slows down the process of the game.
And you mentioned it. You umpired your first game, a JUCO 50-minute game. You were hooked. I got up in the World Series in 2022, and I was around that fast-paced energy and other factors with the high energy and everything. But games getting done in an hour 45 versus me being in a baseball booth for 3.5 hours is certainly a difference. I'm sure for an umpire, certainly a big thing too. So that's an aspect of our game that you and I have in common, and it's something that I think a lot of people that are softball fans that were maybe once baseball fans, that's part of their reason. So if we could shave off a couple more minutes there, I think that's a great point, and something that, like I said, I'm sure there will be some coaches may not love that, but I think it's a good one to clean up.
Yeah, well, and I think for the most part, the lower levels, the D2, NAIA, D3 stuff, they play pretty fast anyway, right? Most of these rules that come into the rule book are Division I, right? And then they just filter downhill. Right. The one I chuckle the most was a D3 coach say something about the strike zone. And I said, listen, coach, I don't see where it says the strike zone's any different for NAI, D3, D2 than it is D1. It's the same strike zone, right? And I try to tell it to umpires too, listen, they know the strike zone. These pitchers have been around the game since they were, 7, 8, 9 years old. They know where they need to put the ball, and they're pretty dang good at putting the ball where it needs to go, right?
Right.
And so we shouldn't be opening the strike zone up but back to the speed of the game. I just think that if we're having 90 seconds between innings, then we should have 90 seconds on pitching changes. Sure. And that just to keep it consistent too, right? Not necessarily to speed up the game, but it keeps it consistent along the board. Unless you're on TV, and that's most of the time until we get to the final 2 games of the World Series where we are on TV and it's at 2 minutes, then let's leave that at 2 minutes, right? I'm good with that. But
I want to hit on one more thing with instant replay wise. So had it at the World Series last year. I think overall success, obviously you don't want some things to tweak. Do you ever do you think there will be a time where the NAIA opening rounds will have instant replay? Because we've seen it in football. So Sun Conference the last couple of years, we've had instant replay. Coaches have had challenge flags for football. So it just had me thinking, like, why couldn't we look to expand that for softball and baseball opening rounds?
Well, it's something that would have to be, go through the NAIA, would have to make that decision. And of course, the coaches, both in baseball and softball, would have to vote on it first and then go to their council. I think there's some sort of council they'd have to go to, and it's just a step thing. Mm-hmm. And then it comes down to finances as well, because you have to if you're going to have one camera, it's not going to do you any good, right? Right. If you're going to have 2 cameras, maybe it's a little bit better, behind home plate, center field. But if you can have different angles, obviously you're going to have more cameras, which means it's
How many cameras did y'all use last year in the World Series?
4 or 5.
Did you feel like that was sufficient, or would you like to see that number go up to
I'd like to see. Sometimes those cameras weren't manned. Okay. So I'd like to see where they're all manned. Okay. Right, so to speak, and that way they can go back and see different angles of the play. Right. Mm-hmm. One angle isn't going to do, too much justice, because most of the time those calls are going to be upheld unless it's a really kick call, right? And then by then you kicked it, and it's going to be an easy challenge. So. Mm.
So we talked about strike zone, talked about game management for umpires and that being important. What other advice do you have for a young umpire starting to make their way up the ranks? And you mentioned a young man the other day. Are there any other young umpires you're seeing now that remind you of you when you were young, that they're going to be making their way up the ranks, that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, there's a few. You want me to mention names? I don't mention names.
That's fine. You don't have to.
No, I don't want to mention names. But yeah, there's a few of them out there. I just, my biggest advice is don't try to make the jump until you're ready, right? Okay. Because we've seen that, and then all of a sudden they come down, they crash, right? Crash and burn. Yeah. And that's the last thing I want to see. The other thing is these young umpires, and there are a couple of them here this week for us, or for this week and this month for us, that listen, don't forget where your roots came from, right? Yeah. And that's the most frustrating part for me. I have, NAIA conference, a D3 conference, a D2 conference, and a D1 conference that I assign. And I've given these young people opportunities at all levels, and now they're working Division I, mid-major softball. Mm-hmm. They're going to be swooped up. There's no question. They're going to end up in the Power Four at some point. But please don't forget where your roots came from, and always try to give back to the people that helped get you started, right? Whether it be, as a trainer and a teacher, or as a clinician. Don't forget the people that got you where you're going to go or where you're going to be.
Is that mentality something that's kept you around the NAIA for so long? Because for me, maybe something I've been very open with, NAISB is not a 3, 5, 6 year plan for me. I mean, it's a 15, 20 plus year commitment that I've made because I've fallen in love with the league and fallen in love with the sport. Is that something that's similar with you and why you've worked with the national office? And like you said, you assign at every level, but is that part of the reason why you've stuck with the NAIA for so long?
Oh, I love the game. I love the people there have been great to me, right? The softball committee always share their thoughts with me, good and bad, which is great. I mean, because it opens my eyes to what can I do better, what can my umpires do better, what can the office do better. And like I said, the office, the people that I've only really dealt with 2 or 3 people at the NAIA office over the 20-some years, so there's been a lot of consistency there, at least from the office standpoint, and there's a lot of give and take and a lot of ideas thrown out there, and I just think you always have to keep an open mind to what people are talking to you about, and then collectively get a good game plan for each year, and that's been outstanding, and that's probably one of the main reasons that the NAIA and I have I think a pretty darn good relationship.
Absolutely, I would say so. Last question for you, because it's something that a lot of people are noticing with spring training and everything starting up. But the catcher/hitter challenge and the robot umpire aspect of things, what are your thoughts on that? And I also say the more videos I see come out, the more it's more the umpires being right on the call.
Yeah, it's Major League Baseball has a lot of money, obviously. So
yeah, it's not something we got to worry about at our level.
Yeah, so I don't know. I was listening to a couple of games coming down here, on my XM radio, and they talked about one of the strike zones or boxes was this way, so to speak, was a little bit right, and then the next day they were at another location, and it was like this, expanded like this. So it's like I don't know. I mean, I went to a AAA game last year where they had the challenges in Toledo for the Mud Hens, and I think it was 50-50. I think the players were, and the challenges that I saw, it was 50% of the players had got it right, and 50% of the umpires got it right. There's a very fine line too, with the umpires, especially at that level where they're graded out. It's just so much different because they have one box and they have a second box where they can be within that box, and so they have a little more latitude, right, than let's say the college umpire, right? They give Major League Baseball umpires a little more latitude. Now, would that change with this new robot thing? I don't know.
I was about to. You lost me a little bit. That second box and first box. Can you elaborate?
That's how they're graded.
Okay, gotcha.
So they're graded. So you have the traditional box, and they give them a little bit more of an expansion. I'd say it's maybe an inch or inch and a half because the ball moves.
You got someone throw a 98 and then a 90-mile-an-hour slider to go with it.
Yeah, their movement in the baseball is just a tad bit different, So I think they give umpires, they're graded out. They get to grade them out by the K zone, right? They are actually graded after every game, every play game, every Major League Baseball umpire is graded. We don't have that luxury.
No,
but I do use Synergy, which is kind of a same thing.
Right.
University of Toledo put me on as a player, and I'm able to watch every college game in the country that uses Synergy, and so it's a pretty cool tool. I have a little K-zone box, and I'll go chart umpires and watch every pitch of every game and give them their percentage on their strike zones, and most of them are. If you're below 94%, we need to have a talk because you're missing 6 out of 100, right? But if you're above 94, I think that's pretty good. We're going to miss pitches.
Absolutely.
But as a whole, I love what Synergy does. Like for me, when I'm able to watch my umpires.
Gotcha. Maybe we need to hit up Energy. Maybe have them be a sponsor on the podcast.
Synergy. There you go.
Use that for a clip. Well, Mr. Bill, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
You got anything you like to add or anything?
Nope, I do not.
Awesome.
Have a great day.
All right, I hope y'all enjoyed that interview. Very informative interview there with Mr. Bill. Good stuff there. All right, let's bring it on. Y'all know the deal. We're going to tell y'all the games you should be keeping up with live stats, keeping up with the score if you can. If there's a live stream, you watch the live streams. Tell you a little bit about some teams too. Let's start off with Bellevue. Them and Campbellsville, the two teams getting up in the top 25. They take on Madonna, so top 25 matchup, 25 versus number 10 on Thursday, 10 o'clock Central Time. Y'all know about Katie Cunningham. We talked about her earlier, but how about a couple of youngsters for Coach Semino? Caitlin Fisher, freshman shortstop, batting 518. We'll take
Having
that.
a very impressive start.
Yeah, we'll take it. This college game ain't nothing for her. And then sophomore utility, Brienne McMurdy. She's got 3 home runs, 10 RBIs, and batting 347 on the year. Georgia Gwinnett takes on Saint Xavier for a very fun doubleheader. Believe they're playing that at Mobile. I want to say maybe they're getting it in at Gulf Shores, but no, they're heading down to get that in early before Gulf Shores gets started. So 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock Eastern time. Gwinnett, we've been talking a good bit about them over the last couple of weeks. So let's tell you about Saint Xavier, who obviously we haven't seen play in a couple of weeks, but they've got a big weekend ahead, and they start off with that doubleheader against the Grizzlies. Fiona Crane batting 550. She's 20 for 21 on swiping bags. Aubrey Warble, of course, big name. A lot of y'all know, batting 535. Mallory O'Connor, who last time they played, she won our Player of the Week award. She's got 19 RBIs to lead the team in batting 486. Of course, coming into the year, our question for St. Xavier was going to be pitching. Their main answer has been Haley Wessner leading the way, 4-0, 2.26 ERA. Not a bad way to get us started on Thursday, but Carly, what a weekend, what a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday slate we have lined up for the folks.
We do. We got quite the slate. Kicking us off on Friday, Houston Victoria takes on Southeastern at 11:15 Eastern time. Good game to look forward to. Mobile and Cumberland, they play at 1:30. And then Houston Victoria takes on St. X at 1:30 Central Time. The Cumberland's game was 1:30 Eastern, for those of you keeping up.
And I think that's right. That's how it is on the NAI website. So that Eastern and Central,
Yeah,
maybe, but that's what it says on the website.
yeah, time zones are hard. Uh, Texarkana and Campbellsville, they take on each other at 1:30. A couple names to look out for Texarkana. Madison Dingman hitting 535. She's got 15 swiped bags on the year. Brooke Usry hitting 479. She's got 6 home runs under her belt. And then Riley Glenn is leading the way for them in the circle. She's got 39 innings pitched, a 1.26 ERA, and she has struck out 36.
Yeah, stepping away from the Gulf Shores Invitational, big one out west, the Cascade. Carroll, who just took 2 or 3 from College of Idaho, will start their 4-game set with Southern Oregon Friday at 12 o'clock Pacific time. Carroll, obviously, team's already taken down one of the big dogs twice. Nearly had them a third time. Southern Oregon, #1 team in the country, big opportunity there for Coach SJ and the Fighting Saints. And for Southern Oregon, targets always been on their back over the last half decade plus, and it is firmly theirs, #1 team in the country. We'll see how they respond. Carly, big one at 345 down at in Gulf Shores, LSUA, Cumberland's, a lot of big names, a lot of big bats. I expect this one to be a lot like that Southern Oregon Cumberland's game that the Raiders won 8-6. But then that one's at 3:45 Eastern time. And at the same time, another big one with Campbellsville and Middle Georgia State. A nice little nightcap on Thursday, Texarkana taking on William Carey. Another team I think maybe could have saw sneaking in that top 10. They're just outside of it though, but they've got some big opportunities. And then Saturday, Carly got some more big ones.
Yeah, bright and early, 9 a.m. Central, kicking us off. Campbellsville versus LSUA. And then Shawnee and Rio Grande will start conference play for them. They'll have a doubleheader at 1 and 3. Couple names to watch out for Shawnee: Sierra Dunnigan hitting 526 on the year. Jenna Christopher, 294 with 4 swiped bags. And then for Rio, Kayla Sedgwick hitting 350, Gabby Adams 353 with 13 RBIs, leads the team in that category. And then Madison Ogden, we all know her name, 39 and a third innings pitched this year, only 7 earned runs, and she struck out 62 en route to her 1.25 ERA.
Yeah,
Then
we just
moving on.
saw.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, hit on that one. Those are two big dogs out of the River States. Rio just coming off taking 2 or 3 from the Patriots, Shawnee State. In the book, they got run ruled in 6 innings by Indiana Wesleyan, but they gave them hell for 5 innings. I mean, they were on them good. They jumped out in front. I thought there was going to be a big upset potentially there for a couple of innings. They can swing it. Will they be able to shut down this Rio lineup and be able to have that same kind of success against Maddie Ogden? We'll find out this weekend. As you're saying, Carly, some more big games highlighted in Gulf Shores on Saturday.
Yeah, a couple more to wrap up your Saturday. Houston Victoria takes on Cumberland's at 3:45. William Carey takes on CMU at 3:45 as well, Central Time. We think Cumberland's takes on Southeastern at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then wrapping us up, 6 p.m. Central Time, Middle Georgia takes on Houston Victoria.
Yeah, super excited for that Cumberland's against Southeastern game. You got to think this is a pretty upset Cumberland's team with going 500 in Oklahoma, and then Rio comes in and takes 2 or 3 in your backyard. They're heading down to Gulf Shores. I don't think it's gonna be much of a vacation. As for Southeastern, on the other hand, you could definitely see them feeling a little disrespected with their record and 2 top 10 wins, and not being ranked a little bit higher. We'll see if Coach Watkins is going to use that for motivation and get them ready for some big matchups. Of course, the main one highlighted there against the Patriots. And then Carly will wrap up Sunday with some more big games in Gulf Shores. Central Methodist against LSUA. We haven't talked much about CMU this episode, but boy, could they really prove themselves this weekend and justify that number 8 ranking. One of those big matchups this weekend, of course, LSUA, 9 a.m. Central Time. And then Southeastern, right after playing that night game with Cumberland's, here's a sneaky one, folks. They play Texarkana. We saw Southern Oregon and Oklahoma after they got some big wins, especially that one Saturday night against Cumberland's. They come out that next day against Campbellsville, and the Tigers get the win. So watch out there, especially if Southeastern beats Cumberland's on Saturday night, for Texarkana to potentially sneak them on Sunday morning. Also, to wrap up Sunday, got Faulkner against Central Methodist at 11:15 Central Time. And Carly, on the flip side, if Cumberland's gets that big win against Southeastern, it could be Middle Georgia State getting that upset win at 11:15 Eastern Time.
Yeah, and Middle Georgia State's got a couple players keep your eyes on. They got Emily Proctor and Madison Riggins in the circle, both seeing about equal amount of innings. And then Mel Bullock hitting a solid 368. She leads the team in RBI. She's got 15. Kaylee Oliver hitting 421, and then Grace Avery hitting 500. You just never know.
No. And again, on that same point, Middle Georgia State just got knocked out of the top 25. How motivated are they to go and play some big games that we've already mentioned? Of course, Cumberland's Patriots, target on their back as always, and that's how it's going to be. And William Carey, I don't think they would have it any other way. Looking at 1:30 Central Time there in Gulf Shores, you got William Carey, who could pick up a win against St. Xavier that could propel them in the top 10, and St. Xavier looking to get that win that propels them in the top 25, hopefully, at 1:30 Central Time. That'll be a big one. And then Bethany maybe have one of the best hitters in the game. They take on Benedictine, who stayed in the top 25, and they are looking to get some wins so they can get back a little higher. That they moved down to 20. Yeah, still in the top 20, falling down from 18. I know they want to start moving the other direction though in the poll, see if they can pick up a big win against Bethany. Those are the games we have highlighted for the week. Carly, you got anything else for the folks before we send them into the weekend?
I did not. Let's have a great old weekend.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed the interview with Mr. Bill Gamala, and yeah, obviously very excited to have him be our UIC, and this bad boy next year. Did I not tell you that?
What?
I told you that, right? He's going to be
Oh,
our
yeah,
USC.
yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I was gonna see if are we doing Marsh's pick?
Oh gosh, yes. Oh, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Okay. All right. So we do have Marsh's matchup. Real quick, Carly, you want to tell everybody what that is while I get him. Marsh, come on, buddy.
Well, now I'm trying to remember what it was.
Southeastern Cumberlands.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Cumberland's and Southeastern, 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturday.
Come on, boy. Marsh. 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 Where you at, dude? Come on, buddy. Here he is. Come on. Let's go. All right. Y'all know the deal. Y'all know what's up with him. Why's this out? There we go. Come on. Let's go.
4-0.
Let's go. He's 4-0. Yeah, there we go. He is 4-0. It's a big one this week. It's a top 20 matchup, as we've already talked about. Ooh, there we go. Okay. So it's the number 7 Cumberland's Patriots against the number 16 Southeastern Fire. By the way, no free ads, but right here, little Merrick Power Bites. I've gotten some questions. These are Marsh's favorite treats. This is the beef flavored. They also come in rabbit and salmon. He likes the salmon, but beef is his favorite. Marsh, I mean, I don't need to explain it to you, dude. You're pretty good. You figured this thing out. You're 4-0. You're a good boy. I tell you, this dog loves the softball dugout. He is it's been
a ladies' man.
Yeah, he's been such a blessing. Such a blessing. He's a smart dog. He's 4-0. Marsh, you see them both in both hands. Right hand is the Southeastern Fire. Left hand is the Cumberland's Patriots. You were right with Cumberland's before with Madonna. Do you pick them again?
What a guy.
He does. We got a Pats fan. All right, so Marsh has spoken. He has got, here you go. You get the other one. Of course you do, for just being a good boy. Well, Marsh has spoken, folks. He is rocking with the Cumberland's Patriots against Southeastern. The pick is in. Will he go 5? Thank you. Thank you, dude. Says, you're the real treat, Dad. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, buddy. All right, well, okay. All right, hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Great weekend of softball. We'll be back Monday. We'll be recapping this weekend, talking about the midweek games. And we have a great interview Monday, as we talked about earlier in the episode. Shannon Wathen, Campbellsville coach. Great stuff. Can't wait to talk to you then. Have a great weekend. Love y'all.